Welcome to essay lesson number 4, building body paragraphs, or as they're affectionately known as, Snowman paragraphs. Now, when writing body paragraphs, what you have to remember is that there's a very clear formula for writing them. A body paragraph can be split into 3 individualized sections: a topic sentence, background information, a quote, and commentary. Now, this body paragraph can be improved on, meaning it is very formulaic, it is very basic. However, this is the starting point for all good academic writing. So, in order to write a body paragraph, you need to understand each individual section before moving on to the next section. Now, this is usually the breakdown of sentences per body paragraph. The topic sentence is usually just one sentence. The torso of the snowman will have 3 to 4 sentences. And finally, the commentary should be about 4 sentences long. In total, your teacher is looking for 8 sentences, maybe even upwards of 10 sentences. However, you shouldn't exceed 10 sentences per snowman. The first step is the topic sentence. Now, essentially, it is a mini thesis statement, meaning it's a statement that you'll have to prove throughout your body paragraph. It will tell your readers what you are attempting to prove in this one small paragraph. Also, it's related to your thesis statement. The second section is background information for a quote or direct evidence. Now, this is very, very simple. All you have to do is tell your readers what is happening in the scene in which the quote or evidence you are going to use is taking place. All you need to do is help the reader understand the quote before it happens, meaning you're telling them what is happening in the story. You're giving them some context so the quote doesn't take them by surprise. It prepares us to recognize who is speaking, thinking, or revealing the quote. And that could be a character, the narrator, the author. But really what this is you need to bring your readers up to speed for what is happening. Now, your teacher may not have read this book for some time, or you may be writing about a story that no one has read before. Therefore, you need to give them a little background information to help them understand what is happening at that point in time. Now, evidence. Now, this quote should prove your topic sentence. It also must be important enough that it will allow you to generate 4 sentences of commentary. So if you don't feel like you can write about this quote, or perhaps you don't understand this quote well enough to write about it for 4 sentences, then you should not use it. Also, it should just not simply repeat your topic sentence. Also, finally, and perhaps the best secret of picking quotations to use in body paragraphs, you need to pick the exact right quote. Now, that says more about you as a reader than a writer. If you take the time to find the exact right quote, you will not struggle with your paragraphs. However, people that just pick quotes at random often struggle to write body paragraphs. Finally, step 4. Commentary is perhaps the most difficult part of a body paragraph to write, simply because it takes a little bit of time, and you have to be willing to give commentary the time it needs. So, firstly, it explains to your readers how your quote proves your topic sentence. It's an analysis of a quote, and you have to explain why this quote is relevant to the topic you are discussing. Quite simply, why does it matter? Why does this quote matter more than other quotes you could have picked? Finally, you have to explain to your readers why this quote is significant to the thesis statement. You must explain what it proves and why it's important. And remember, that is 4 sentences worth of writing on your part. Make sure you can do this. Now, as always, I've included an example. And I think examples are good because you need to see all the pieces of an essay in order to understand them. So, as you remember, my thesis statement is the last sentence of the introduction. So here it is. Now, since my thesis statement is telling readers that Bilbo is seeking a way to make peace with the 2 halves of himself, I must show the readers that Bilbo is in fact unhappy with himself. So, if you read my topic sentence, it very, very clearly shows that Bilbo is unhappy because the Tookish side finally unsettles his Baggins side. Now, the background information is perhaps the easiest part of the Snowman. All you have to do is remind the readers of what is happening in the story. So, for my purposes, all I have to do is remind the readers that the dwarves are in Bilbo's house, they're eating his food, and they're singing a song about their histories. Now, this will unsettle Bilbo. And my quote that Bilbo felt the love of beautiful things, a fierce and jealous love, the desire of the hearts of the dwarves to carry a sword instead of a walking stick, that quote is very, very powerful because it proves that Bilbo is no longer happy with just being a Baggins. He is jealous. He wants something that the dwarves have, that being a Baggins cannot give him. And perhaps the best quote that I found, he also feels something Tookish wake up inside him. There it is. There's my evidence. Now that definitely proves my topic sentence. His Tookish side is unsettling his Baggins heritage. Now, the commentary section is the most difficult, but look what I do. Now, this is where I have to explain why the quote proves my topic sentence. So, I explain for Bilbo that this moment is incredibly important for him because he inherited his wealth from his father, Bungo. So this idea of desiring something he doesn't have is brand new to Bilbo. In his comfortable life, he's never had to feel fierce, nor has he had to desire anything at all. Suddenly, what he has in the Shire is not enough. Now, whereas the Baggins side was once content, the Tookish part of him requires that Bilbo leave the Shire to take risks, to experience dangers. He cannot do that with a walking stick. He needs a sword. Finally, and this is the key to the whole book, Bilbo realizes that what he has in the Shire is not enough to become the person he wants to be. Now, if you go back up to my introduction, you will see that I'm already connecting my commentary to my thesis statement. Already, I've shown that comfort is not everything, just like I said I would, but also that the longings of Bilbo's Took heritage are starting to appear, and that he is willing to risk his home and his safety to make peace with the 2 halves of himself. Now, you're already seeing these connections in my commentary. Therefore, commentary is very, very much linked to your thesis statement. Because remember, that's what we're trying to prove. Now, this topic sentence takes a little while to get moving. but let me explain what I do. Because I'm explaining at the end of my last paragraph that even though Bilbo's Tookish side appears, the Baggins side asserts itself. Bilbo falls to the floor and he screams, "Struck by lightning, struck by lightning." So when I start this paragraph, I have to explain that Bilbo's Tookish side wins out ever so slightly and he does leave. But even though he has left, he is still very much a Baggins. He is an incompetent traveler, he's an inexperienced thief, and an impotent fighter. Now, this is where I really drop my topic sense. I say, however, the Tookish part of Bilbo is finally forced to the surface when he is separated from the group in riddles in the dark. Now, even though it took me a while to use a topic sentence, it is still very much there. Now, in this particular scene, he's become separated from the dwarves and he has fallen down into the dark goblin tunnels. Now, he's all alone, he's isolated for the first time in his life, and this is perhaps the most terrifying moment for Bilbo. He reaches into his pocket to try to find some of the items that remind him of home. He reaches into his pocket and he realizes he doesn't have what he needs. In fact, he has his pipe, he has some tobacco, but he doesn't have any matches. So, what he has to do is he has to find something else to comfort him. Now, what comforts him is a sword. Now, we don't associate a sword with the Shire. We don't associate war with the Shire at all. It's a land of peace. Why would he ever need a sword? However, the text tells us that he was somehow comforted. Now, in my commentary, I explain why the sword is so comforting to Bilbo. Now, whereas the Baggins side of him might not understand what to do with the sword, his Tookish side does. The sword reminds him a little bit of this Tookish identity that has not been awakened yet. But this sword, this symbolic weapon, provides him the confidence he needs to step forward as a Took and to forget his Baggins-ish fear. Now, this moment will be huge for Bilbo as he begins to believe in himself more and more as a Took. Again, the Baggins side is starting to lessen and the Tookish side is starting to come out. And again, if you remember my thesis statement, I'm talking about his two identities finding a way to make peace with one another. They're trying to balance themselves out. And this is the first moment in which the Took side finally starts to appear.